The music stopped. 20,000 people fell silent. And in that moment, nobody knew they were about to witness the most legendary duet in music history, one that would never be recorded, never be replayed, and exist only in the hearts of those lucky enough to be there. It was August 19th, 1990, at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Madonna was in the middle of her groundbreaking Blond Ambition World Tour, the same tour that would cement her reputation as the ultimate performer who pushed every boundary. The show had been electric from the moment the curtain dropped, with Madonna commanding the stage in her now iconic Jean-Paul Gaultier cone bra, delivering hit after hit to a crowd that was absolutely losing their minds. But what nobody in that arena knew was that sitting quietly in a VIP box, trying to enjoy the show without being noticed, was Whitney Houston, fresh off her massive success with I Wanna Dance with Somebody, and already being called the voice by fans and critics alike. Whitney had come to the show at the invitation of a mutual friend in the industry, curious to see what all the buzz was about regarding Madonna's controversial new tour. The contrast couldn't have been more striking. Here was Madonna, the provocative pop rebel who made headlines for challenging every social and religious norm, and Whitney, the gospel-trained powerhouse who represented vocal perfection and mainstream appeal. In 1990, these two women existed in completely different musical universes. Madonna was about halfway through Express Yourself when it happened. The song was building to its climactic chorus. The crowd was singing along, dancers were moving in perfect synchronization, and then suddenly, Madonna stopped singing. Not just stopped singing, but made a cutting motion to her band, bringing the entire production to a halt. But you won't believe what Madonna saw that made her stop everything. In the VIP section, Madonna had spotted Whitney Houston. Even from the stage, even with the bright lights and the chaos of 20,000 screaming fans, Madonna's performer instincts had locked onto the unmistakable presence of one of the few women in music who could match her level of stardom. "Hold up! Hold up!" Madonna said into her headset microphone, her voice now carrying through the arena's sound system. The crowd grew confused. Was this part of the show? Had something gone wrong? Madonna walked to the front edge of the stage, shielding her eyes from the spotlights as she peered into the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, her voice taking on that mischievous tone that anyone who knew Madonna would recognize as the sound of her about to do something completely unexpected. "We have royalty in the house tonight." The crowd started murmuring, people looking around, trying to figure out what Madonna was talking about. In the VIP box, Whitney Houston sank lower in her seat, probably hoping she could somehow disappear. She'd come to enjoy a show, not to become part of it. "Ms. Whitney Houston is here with us tonight," Madonna continued, and suddenly 20,000 heads turned toward the VIP section. Whitney's heart must have been pounding. Being acknowledged at someone else's concert was one thing, but Madonna clearly had something else in mind. What Madonna did next had never been done before by any major artist during a world tour. "Whitney," Madonna called out, her voice carrying clearly through the arena. "Get your beautiful self up here. Tonight, we're going to give these people something they'll remember for the rest of their lives." The crowd erupted. The idea of Whitney Houston and Madonna sharing the same stage was absolutely unthinkable to most people. These were two artists who represented opposite ends of the musical spectrum. The pure vocalist versus the provocative performer, gospel roots versus pop rebellion, traditional stardom versus revolutionary artistry. Whitney was shaking her head, gesturing that she couldn't possibly come on stage. She was wearing jeans and a simple blouse, not exactly concert attire. She hadn't warmed up her voice, hadn't prepared for performance, but Madonna wasn't taking no for an answer. "I'm not starting this song again until Whitney Houston comes up here," Madonna announced to the crowd. "And I know none of you want to go home without hearing Express Yourself, so y'all better help me convince her." 20,000 people began chanting, "Whitney, Whitney, Whitney." The sound was deafening, overwhelming, impossible to ignore. Whitney's security team was looking at her, waiting for direction. Her friends in the VIP box were encouraging her to go. The entire arena was focused on her, waiting. Finally, Whitney stood up. The crowd went absolutely wild. She made her way down from the VIP section, through the security checkpoints, and within minutes, something miraculous was happening. Whitney Houston was being escorted up the steps to Madonna's stage during the Blond Ambition Tour. But what happened when the voice met the Queen of Pop on that stage shocked everyone. When Whitney walked onto that stage at Madison Square Garden, she looked both nervous and radiant. Madonna walked over to her with that confident strut that had made her famous, and the two women embraced in front of 20,000 people. The contrast was striking. Madonna in her elaborate tour costume, Whitney in her casual clothes, two different eras and styles of stardom meeting in real time. New York, Madonna announced, you're about to witness history. Two women who've never performed together, about to create something brand new, right here, right now. Madonna turned to Whitney and whispered something in her ear that the microphones didn't pick up. Whitney nodded, smiled, and stepped up to Madonna's microphone. I have to tell y'all, Whitney said, her voice carrying that warm, conversational tone that made millions of people feel like she was talking directly to them. I came here tonight just to enjoy the show, and now this crazy woman has me up here about to sing with her. The crowd laughed and cheered. Madonna grinned and grabbed a second microphone from one of her backup singers. So here's what we're going to do, Madonna announced. Whitney's going to help me finish Express Yourself, and then maybe if we're feeling it, we'll see what other magic we can create. What happened next was pure, spontaneous musical chemistry. Madonna started Express Yourself from the top, but this time, when the first chorus hit, Whitney's voice soared above Madonna's, creating harmonies that had never been written, adding runs and flourishes that transformed the pop anthem into something completely new. The moment that followed created a sound that had never existed before and would never exist again. Madonna's pop sensibility blended with Whitney's gospel-trained power in ways that neither artist had ever experienced. When Madonna sang Express Yourself, Whitney would echo with Tell Them How You Feel, adding layers and depth that made the song bigger, more emotional, more powerful than anyone had ever heard it. But then, in a moment of pure inspiration, Whitney began weaving in elements of I Wanna Dance with Somebody. As Madonna continued with Express Yourself, Whitney started singing I Wanna Dance with Somebody, I Wanna Feel the Heat with Somebody, creating an impossible mashup that shouldn't have worked but absolutely did. The crowd was losing their minds. People were crying, screaming, trying to record with whatever primitive recording devices they might have had in 1990. But mostly they were just standing there in awe of what they were witnessing. Madonna's dancers, who had rehearsed this show hundreds of times, were improvising movements to match the new energy on stage. The band was following the lead of two artists who were creating something completely unrehearsed, completely unique, completely magical. For nearly 8 minutes, Madonna and Whitney turned Madonna's concert into something that transcended both of their individual artistry. They were feeding off each other's energy, pushing each other to new heights, creating harmonies and musical moments that existed only in that room, on that night for those people. But the most incredible moment was still coming. As the musical fusion of Express Yourself and I Wanna Dance with Somebody was reaching its climax, something unexpected happened. Whitney stepped back from her microphone and began clapping her hands in a gospel rhythm that she must have learned in church as a child. Madonna, without missing a beat, began following Whitney's lead. Suddenly, these two pop superstars were leading 20,000 people in what felt like a spiritual experience. Whitney's voice rose above everything else, not singing the words to either song anymore, but just vocalizing. Those runs and melismas that only she could do, that had made her famous, that came from somewhere deep in her soul. Madonna stopped singing entirely and just stood there, watching Whitney transform Madison Square Garden into what felt like the biggest, most amazing church service in the world. The crowd was clapping along, swaying. Some people had their hands in the air. And for those few minutes, it didn't matter if you came to see pop, R&B, gospel, or rock and roll. You were witnessing something spiritual. When Whitney finally brought her vocals back down, when the crowd's clapping slowly subsided, when the moment gently came to an end, there was a beat of complete silence in Madison Square Garden. Then 20,000 people exploded in applause that lasted for over 5 minutes. Madonna and Whitney embraced again, both of them clearly moved by what had just happened. Madonna took her microphone and said, "That right there is why Whitney Houston is called the Voice. Thank you for sharing that gift with us tonight." Whitney, still catching her breath, said into her microphone, "Thank you, Madonna, for reminding me that music has no boundaries. Y'all are beautiful." What happened backstage after that performance would change both women's careers. After Whitney left the stage and Madonna continued with her show, something had fundamentally shifted. The audience had witnessed something that felt historic, and they knew it. For the rest of Madonna's performance that night, people kept chanting Whitney's name during quiet moments, hoping she might come back. But backstage in Madonna's dressing room after the show ended, the real conversation was just beginning. "I've never experienced anything like that," Whitney told Madonna as they sat together, both still high from the adrenaline of what had just happened. I don't even know what that was." Madonna, still in her stage costume, looked at Whitney with genuine admiration. "That was you showing me what real power sounds like. I've spent my whole career pushing boundaries, but tonight you showed me that the biggest boundary is the one between the performer and the divine." They talked for over 2 hours that night. Madonna told Whitney how isolated she felt being seen as controversial all the time, how exhausting it was to always be fighting for the right to express herself as an artist. Whitney opened up about the pressure of being the voice, about how sometimes she felt trapped by her own talent, expected to be perfect all the time. "You know what struck me about tonight?" Madonna asked. "We're both women who've reached the top of our game, but we're fighting completely different battles. You're fighting to be seen as more than just a voice, and I'm fighting to be taken seriously despite my image." Whitney nodded. "The industry wants to put us in boxes. You're the controversial one, I'm the safe one. You're the rebel, I'm the good girl. But tonight showed me that we're both just artists trying to connect with people through music." That conversation led to a decision that would impact both of their careers for years to come. Before Whitney left that night, Madonna made a proposal that surprised her. "I want you to think about something. What if we didn't let the industry define us? What if we started making music that was true to who we are, not who they think we should be?" "What do you mean?" Whitney asked. "I mean, you have the most incredible voice in the world, but I feel like your label keeps you in this safe space. And me, I've got all this freedom to be controversial, but sometimes I wonder if anyone takes my actual music seriously. What if we learn from each other?" Madonna pulled out a piece of paper and wrote down her personal phone number. "If you ever want to try something different, something that scares your label, call me. Let's create music that reminds the world why we both got into this business in the first place." Whitney took that piece of paper, and while she never called Madonna to collaborate officially, that conversation planted seeds that would influence both women's artistic choices for years to come. The ripple effects of that one night would surprise everyone. In the months following that surprise duet, both Madonna and Whitney began making different choices in their careers. Madonna's next album, Ray of Light, would show a more spiritual, introspective side that many critics traced back to her encounter with Whitney's gospel-influenced performance style. Whitney, meanwhile, began pushing her label for more creative control. The confidence she felt from holding her own on stage with Madonna, from seeing how 20,000 people responded to her unscripted, unrehearsed performance, gave her the courage to demand more input into her artistic direction. "That night with Madonna taught me that my voice is powerful enough to transform any song, any style, any moment," Whitney would later tell a close friend. "I didn't need to be afraid of stepping outside my comfort zone." The audience members from that night at Madison Square Garden became legendary in their own right. In the days before social media, before viral videos, the only way that story spread was through word of mouth. People who were there became celebrities among their friends, constantly asked to describe what the duet sounded like, what the energy felt like, how it felt to witness something that would never happen again. But perhaps the most beautiful part of this story is what it taught both women about friendship. Despite their busy schedules and different circles, Madonna and Whitney stayed in touch after that night. They would call each other before big performances, send encouraging messages during difficult periods in their careers, and always spoke about each other with genuine respect in interviews. When Whitney was struggling with personal challenges in the late 1990s, Madonna was one of the few industry peers who reached out privately, not for publicity, but just to remind Whitney of her strength. "Remember that night at MSG?" Madonna would say. "Remember how powerful you felt up there? That power is still inside you. And when Madonna faced criticism for her more experimental music in the 2000s, Whitney would remind her of their backstage conversation about not letting the industry define their artistry. Stay true to what moves your soul, Whitney would tell her. That's what real artistry is about. The music industry loves to create rivalries between successful women, to make it seem like there's only room for one at the top. But that night in 1990, Madonna and Whitney Houston proved that when powerful women support each other, magic happens. Today, that performance exists only in the memories of 20,000 people who knew they were witnessing something special. In an age where every moment is recorded, live-streamed, and archived forever, there's something beautiful about a moment that existed only for the people who were present. No bootleg recordings of that duet exist. No cell phone videos captured it. It lives only in the hearts and memories of the people who were there. Those audience members often say that no recording could have captured what that moment really felt like. The electricity in the air, the spontaneous joy, the sense that two of the most powerful women in music were creating something together in real time, just for them. Madonna still talks about that night in interviews, calling it one of the most pure musical moments of her career. It reminded me why I fell in love with performing in the first place, she says. It wasn't about the costumes or the controversy. It was about connecting with people through music. And Whitney, before her passing, would often reference that performance as one of her favorite musical memories. Sometimes the best performances are the ones you don't plan, she would say. That night, I wasn't Whitney Houston, the recording artist. I was just a woman who loved to sing, sharing that joy with other people who love music. The friendship that began that night, built on mutual respect and genuine admiration, stands as a reminder that the music industry's greatest moments often happen when artists step outside their expected roles and connect as human beings first, superstars second. 20,000 people witnessed history that night. They saw two queens of music prove that collaboration is more powerful than competition, that spontaneity can create magic, and that sometimes the most beautiful performances are the ones that exist only in memory, precious because they can never be replayed, only remembered and treasured forever. In a world where everything is documented, Madonna and Whitney Houston gave their fans something truly rare, a moment that belonged only to them, a secret that only they shared, a performance that proved that the greatest duets happen not in recording studios, but in moments of pure, unscripted musical joy.